Millions of people around the world respond to the call of the Pope of the Vatican to pray for peace in Syria and to reject any military aggression against it. Demonstrations in various capitals continue to condemn the American threats of military aggression on Syria. And units of the Syrian Army continue their operations against the terrorist gangs in Maalula and its environs. Good afternoon. Millions of people around the world responded to the call of Pope Francis of the Vatican to pray for the return of peace to Syria and to reject any military aggression against it. The Pope called for work to achieve peace and reconciliation in Syria and the Middle East. His call was received with enthusiasm by 70,000 people throughout the world. The Pope said that war and violence lead only to death. War is the language of death, which is always a failure for humanity. Another way should be used. He asserted that people in the whole world should approve of this approach as soon as possible. In Damascus, a prayer session was held in the Cathedral of the Mistress of Al-Naya in Al-Zaytun Quarter in response to the call of His Holiness, Pope Francis of the Vatican, to pray for the return of peace and security to Syria and against any military aggression. People in the cathedral prayed for the return of peace, security and love to Syria. The prayers were led by Patriarch Gregorius III Laham of Antioch and the Orient. He asserted that most countries of the world supported the political solution in Syria. Only a few states wanted military action. He called upon Syrians everywhere in the world to present the image of Syria to the whole world for their opinion as a country of love, tolerance and coexistence. In a meeting with the Syrian parties, the regional leadership of the Ba'ath Arab Socialist Party discussed the latest developments in the light of the threats of a direct aggression on Syria. The secretaries of the parties asserted that this threat unites everybody, regardless of political and ideological differences. They agreed to keep coordination and consultation open until this threat is repulsed. The Assistant Regional Secretary Hilal expressed appreciation of the solid attitude of the Syrian parties, standing united against this onslaught on our homeland. The regional leadership asserted at the end of this meeting that it would remain in session for an unlimited time. The Council of Arab Citizens living in Moscow held a meeting to discuss the situation in Syria and the American threat of aggression against it. They also discussed the necessity of exerting more efforts for a larger movement to prevent such aggression. In consultation with the Arab cultural and social organizations, the Council issued a statement addressed to the Russian Duma Council in which it strongly condemned the American threats to Syria. They stressed the necessity of finding political solution through the Geneva Conference. The Council also called upon all the national progressive forces in the world to condemn these American threats. It also called upon the Syrian people to stand united against the main American Zionist enemy. The statement expressed gratitude to the countries that stood with Syria against this aggression and refused the use of their space as a starting point for the American war machine. In the Philippines, hundreds of people gathered in the capital Manila to express their opposition to potential U.S. military action in Syria. Protesters gathered around a large peace sign where they waved placards and lit candles. Protest leaders said that the Philippines are joining the global protests against the impending U.S. aggression against it.
Are joining the global protest against the impending U.S. airstrikes and the intervention in Syria. And I think from the Pope down to the ordinary people in the United States and elsewhere in the world, people are rising up against the planned U.S. intervention.
The Syrian Arab Army units continued their operations against the terrorist groups in the town of Maalula and its environs, killing and wounding many terrorists, including the leaders of some terrorist groups like Mustafa Khalila and Abu Hadid in Yabrud. Our forces advanced into the town through Ain Tine. They reached the main square and continued to chase the terrorists in various areas around the town. They killed a large number of the terrorists, including several non-Syrians. In the Damascus countryside, the Syrian Arab Army units captured a vehicle full of weapons and ammunition at a roadblock leading to the town of Douma. The vehicle also contained smuggled and stolen medical compounds and equipment used to detonate explosive devices. The British newspaper The Times exposed the involvement of Saudi Arabia in arming and financing the terrorist groups in Syria in coordination with Turkey, Qatar and Jordan under the supervision of the CIA. The paper pointed out that Saudi Arabia has recently increased the arming of terrorists after receiving this job from Qatar. The paper quoted Gulf security sources asserting that the CIA was supervising the operation of smuggling new shipments of weapons by Bandar bin Sultan into Syria across the Jordanian and Turkish borders in order to help the terrorists to exploit the intended American aggression. The paper also reported discontent in some Arab countries, particularly Saudi Arabia, with Obama's decision to refer the subject of military aggression to the American Congress. The paper added that Saudi Arabia has been pushing the U.S. to attack Syria for several months, and that Bandar bin Sultan paid repeated visits to Washington in the recent weeks. The paper also asserted that Saudi Arabia urged the Arab League to support this military intervention. In Turkey, and for the second consecutive day, Erdogan's forces continued to attack the students of Middle East Technical University in Ankara. Erdogan's forces used tear gas and water cannons in addition to rubber bullets against the demonstrators, a thing that led school students of Galatasaray High School in Istanbul to spread calls through social networking sites for demonstrations in support of anti-Erdogan protesters in Ankara. Thousands of demonstrators gathered in the streets leading to Taksim Square, walking towards Kazi Park, where the protests broke out earlier, but heavy security measures prevented them from reaching the park. Meanwhile, Erdogan's forces arrested 25 demonstrators. With this, we conclude our news for today. Thank you for watching us. For more details about Syria and the region, you can visit our website on syriaonline.sy. God bless you and long live Syria.
Good afternoon. Minister of Interior, Trade and Consumer Protection gave his directives to provide large quantities of goods needed for the consumers, including school requirements, to be sold at competitive prices. He pointed out that the ministry is continuously watching the prices and the availability of the materials in the market. The minister emphasized that the ministry is working hard to fight manipulation through intensified patrols and by taking legal measures against the violators. The chairman of the Union of Agriculture's Chambers anticipated a fall in poultry prices after taking the necessary measures to achieve that. The union made a suggestion 2 weeks ago to halt egg exports to decrease the prices. However, they remain still, so it demanded providing feed in reasonable prices. The director of the General Establishment of Grains in Homs pointed out that the last quantity of wheat was received on August 29th. It was more than 18,000 tons. It is worth mentioning that the delivered amount of wheat during the previous season reached 29,000 tons. And now over to the exchange rate according to the bulletin of the Central Bank of Syria. With this, we conclude our news. Thank you for watching and goodbye.